I don't get it, Mark grumbled, arms crossed tightly over his chest. I provide for her. I protect her. I never show weakness. Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? Why is she so unhappy? Across from him, his wife Lisa dabbed tears from her eyes. She loved Mark deeply, but in that therapy session she revealed a painful truth. Despite all his efforts to be strong, she felt alone and emotionally starved in their marriage. Mark could lift heavy boxes and never flinch at a crisis. Yet when it came to her feelings, he was at a loss. In my practice, I've seen a common pattern. Men who think being a real man means using brute force, whether it's physical strength, dominance, or emotional stoicism, only to find their relationships falling apart. They're baffled when their partner pulls away or says, "I don't feel close to you." If you're a man who's ever felt like you were doing everything right by being tough and in control, yet still heard, "I need you to open up to me," from a woman in your life, this talk is for you. Today, we're diving deep into the contrast between brute force and emotional intelligence, and what women truly value in a partner. The misconception of brute force. Masculinity. From childhood, many men internalize a powerful myth about masculinity. The strong and silent type is the ideal. Maybe you heard sayings like, "boys don't cry," or "showing emotion is for the weak." For generations, the pinnacle of manhood was a stoic provider who never faltered. Strength was defined by how much physical or emotional pain you could endure without complaining. Dominance and control were celebrated, while vulnerability was scorned. In other words, being a man meant using brute force, whether that was muscle, money, or sheer willpower, to protect and lead. Emotions? Those were considered a nuisance at best, a liability at worst. Mark, our earlier example, is a classic product of this conditioning. In his mind, love meant protection and provision. He worked long hours, fixed problems around the house, and thought listening to Lisa vent about her day was just silly talk. When she cried, he'd pat her once and quickly try to solve whatever he thought the problem was, or he'd shut down, uncomfortable with her tears. Mark wasn't trying to be cruel. He genuinely believed being a rock, unmoved by emotion, was how to be a good husband. But as Lisa described in therapy, what she really wanted was emotional presence. A husband who not only provided for her, but also understood her. Here's the irony. Many women do appreciate strength and reliability in a partner, but not the kind of strength that equates to emotional disconnection or intimidation. Brute force without empathy often backfires. A man might think he's showing love by being protective or decisive, but if he bulldozes over his partner's feelings in the process, she ends up feeling unheard and disrespected. I've had male clients who tried to control every aspect of the relationship, from finances to social plans, thinking it would make their partner feel secure. Instead, their partners felt treated like children or prisoners, not equals in love. It's important to clarify that brute force in a relationship is not just about physical force. It can be emotional brute force too, raising your voice to win an argument, using silence or withdrawal as punishment, insisting on being right rather than listening. These forceful tactics create fear or resentment, not respect. Over time, a woman may start to emotionally disengage for her own self-protection. She might stop sharing things with you because she expects to be judged or ignored. Intimacy erodes, and both partners end up lonely despite being together. Why do so many men fall into this trap? Often, it's simply what we learned. We had few role models of men who openly talked about feelings. Some of us saw our fathers bottle up stress or anger until it exploded. Society told us that real men use power to get their way, whereas emotional sensitivity is feminine or weak. These messages sink in deep. So when a relationship issue arises, say your girlfriend is upset that you came home late, the brute force impulse might be to defend yourself aggressively or dismiss her feelings. You might think, if I admit I was wrong or let her see I'm afraid she'll leave, I'll lose power. In reality, by refusing to show vulnerability or empathy, you're chipping away at the trust and love between you. Here's a wake-up call. Women today are increasingly rejecting that old-school macho act. Research shows that modern women aren't pining for the stoic, unfeeling alpha who always has the upper hand. In fact, a 2023 global study of over 17,000 women found that kindness and supportiveness were the most desired traits in a long-term partner, ranking higher than physical attractiveness or financial status. Notably, women showed no preference for traits tied to stoic toughness or dominance. Think about that. No preference for dominance. This reflects a huge cultural shift. As women have gained more independence and equality, they value emotional connection over old-school dominance. One woman summed it up beautifully on social media. When a man is gentle with you, not just in his touch, but in his tone, his presence, his energy, something in you begins to shift. That something she's talking about is trust and attraction growing out of feeling emotionally safe and understood. As a psychologist, I hear this sentiment echoed by female clients all the time. They aren't asking for a doormat or a overly deferential yes man. They still appreciate confidence and decisiveness. But they are saying that without emotional warmth and respect, confidence turns to arrogance, and decisiveness feels like dictatorial control. To put it directly, women generally don't want a tyrant or a stone wall. They want a teammate. They want to feel heard, valued, and emotionally connected. Brute force might grab attention initially or in the short term. In some cases it might even trigger fear-based compliance, but it cannot sustain love. If you've been focusing on being the toughest guy in the room and wondering why your romantic life is unfulfilling, it might be time to rethink what real strength means. Emotional intelligence. The secret. Strength. Women crave. So if brute force and stoicism aren't winning women's hearts in the long run, what will? The answer, in one phrase, is emotional intelligence. Now, what does that really mean? Emotional intelligence, often called EQ, is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both your own and those of others. It means being attuned to feelings, demonstrating empathy, and responding to emotions in a healthy, constructive way. Far from being touchy-feely fluff, emotional intelligence is powerful. In fact, it has become a cornerstone of attraction and a central expectation in modern long-term relationships. Let's debunk a misconception right away. Having emotional intelligence doesn't mean you have to cry at the drop of a hat or become someone you're not. It doesn't mean weakness. On the contrary, it's a form of strength, think about it, which requires more inner strength, pretending you have no emotions, when we all clearly do, or facing your emotions honestly and learning to master them. It's much easier to lash out in anger or hide behind silence, brute force or avoidance, than it is to calmly say, "I'm hurt and scared right now, but I want to work through this with you." That kind of vulnerability takes courage. Women often tell me that a man who can express his feelings constructively makes them feel secure. It signals maturity. One client, Sarah, once said about her husband, "When he actually tells me why he's upset instead of yelling or storming off, I feel closer to him. It's like I can finally see him, not just his anger." This illustrates a key point. Emotional intelligence allows your partner to see the real you, and that authenticity is deeply attractive. It builds intimacy, because you're opening a door instead of building a wall. Let's contrast two scenarios. First, imagine a man, we'll call him John, who lacks emotional intelligence. When John's girlfriend Amy comes home looking upset, John's response is to immediately try to fix the problem without asking how she feels. If she says, "I had a terrible day at work," John might respond, "Just quit that job if it stresses you out. You shouldn't let them push you around. Here's what you need to do." He means well, but he's missing the mark. Amy doesn't feel heard. She feels lectured. Worse, if Amy gets frustrated and says, "You're not listening to me," John might get defensive or angry. "Fine, I was just trying to help. Why are you jumping on me?" In minutes, a conversation that could have been tender turns into a standoff. Amy goes to bed feeling even more alone. And John is left thinking, "Women are so emotional. I can't figure out what she wants." Now consider a second scenario with a man who does have emotional intelligence. Mike, for instance, sees his wife come home upset. Instead of jumping into Mr. Fix-It mode or brushing her off, Mike asks gently, "You look like today was rough. Want to talk about it?" He listens, truly listens, as she vents, nodding, maybe offering a validating comment like, "I can understand why you'd feel hurt by that." He doesn't interrupt, doesn't judge her for being emotional. If he's not sure what she needs, he might even ask, "Is there anything I can do? Or do you just need to vent? I'm here for you either way." Amy, in this alternate universe, feels heard and calms down. Maybe then Mike offers a thoughtful suggestion, or maybe he just gives her a hug. Either way, she now associates Mike with comfort and understanding. That's a man she feels safe with. It's no surprise which scenario leads to a stronger emotional bond. Emotional intelligence is often the X factor that distinguishes a thriving relationship from a struggling one. In fact, research backs this up. Studies show that emotional intelligence accounts for roughly 41% of marital satisfaction, a huge chunk. A 2022 meta-analysis even found a significant positive correlation, about 0.37, between a person's EQ and their romantic relationship satisfaction. Those numbers reflect countless real-life couples. The more you and your partner can understand and handle emotions, the happier and more fulfilling your relationship tends to be. Women, in particular, frequently cite emotional responsiveness as a make-or-break trait. In that 2023 study I mentioned, not only did kindness and supportiveness top the list of desired traits, but emotional stability and empathy ranked far above things like physical attractiveness or financial wealth. To put it plainly, being caring and emotionally wise is sexy. It might not have the same Hollywood flash as a six-pack or a sports car, but in real life, it's what sustains attraction day in and day out. Emotional intelligence helps you navigate conflict without yelling or stonewalling. It helps you support her when she's down. It allows you to share your joys and fears so she can truly know you. These are the ingredients of deep love and respect. Let's tie this back to Mark and Lisa's story from the intro. At the start of therapy, Mark's instinct was to use more brute force to fix their marriage, plan more date nights, work even harder to earn money, maybe buy Lisa gifts. Anything except talking about feelings. Those things aren't bad, but they were missing the core issue. Lisa felt disconnected because Mark never let her in. He wouldn't talk about his bad days or admit to any anxiety or sadness. He thought he was sparing her or being manly, but she interpreted it as, he doesn't trust me or need me emotionally. He doesn't really love me. That was devastating for her. When this finally clicked for Mark, when he realized that what Lisa truly valued was his willingness to share and empathize, it was like a light bulb went off. He started small, simply telling her, I'm stressed about work, and sometimes I don't talk about it because I don't want to worry you. To his surprise, Lisa smiled when he said that. She told him, I want to know, even if it's hard. We're a team, remember? That moment of vulnerability was a turning point. Over the weeks, Mark practiced listening more and talking at Lisa less. He learned to say, I feel upset when this happens, instead of, you make me mad when you do that. This simple switch from blaming to sharing feelings is a hallmark of emotional maturity. He also began to catch himself when he got the urge to storm out during an argument. Instead, he'd take a breath and say, give me a minute, I need to cool down, then come back to continue the discussion calmly. A real-life example of regulating emotions rather than letting them explode. Lisa, on her end, noticed these changes and responded warmly. The more Mark softened and opened up, the closer and more attracted she felt to him. She started saying things like, I feel like I have my best friend back, and, it means so much that you listen now. Mark's story illustrates that emotional intelligence is learnable. It's not an inborn trait you either have or don't. He went from an emotionally disconnected state to an emotionally attuned one through understanding and practice. The payoff was not just saving his marriage, but finding a deeper confidence in himself. He told me once, I still take pride in being strong, but now I know being strong includes handling feelings, not denying them. That right there is real growth. Why emotional intelligence matters to women more than ever. You might be wondering why this shift has happened. Why do women today seem to care more about emotional intelligence than perhaps your mother's or grandmother's generation did? There are a few big reasons, cultural, psychological, and even evolutionary, that explain why emotional intelligence has become the new gold standard for many women seeking partners. 1. Cultural shifts in gender roles. In the past, many women depended on men for financial security and physical protection. A couple of generations ago, a woman might have overlooked an emotionally distant husband, as long as he was a good provider, because survival was the priority. But times have changed. Women are now leaders, wage earners, and financially independent in ways that previous generations weren't. With survival and basic security less in question, at least in many societies, the emotional quality of relationships has moved to the forefront. Modern women are saying, I can take care of myself, so I'm not looking for a patron or a bodyguard. I want a partner. As one article put it, as women gain independence, emotional compatibility outweighs physical dominance. The old provider-protector role is no longer enough. Being a loving equal is what counts. 2. Psychological need for connection. Humans have an innate need to feel understood and connected. This is true for men and women, but women are often socialized to recognize and voice this need more openly. Emotional intelligence in a partner meets that need. When a woman says she wants a man who communicates or isn't afraid to feel, she's really saying she wants emotional safety. Emotional safety means she can be herself, be vulnerable, and trust that you won't ridicule or abandon her for having feelings, and vice versa. Research in relationships consistently finds that qualities like empathy, kindness, and emotional stability create a foundation of trust and satisfaction for couples. In contrast, a lack of empathy or emotional support is often cited in breakups and divorces. Simply put, emotional intelligence helps fulfill one of the deepest relationship needs: to be seen and loved for who we really are. 3. Evolution of attraction. There's even an evolutionary angle. Early in human history, brute force had clear value. Physical strength and dominance could offer protection in a harsh environment. But in today's world, physical dangers are less prevalent. We're not usually fending off wild animals or rival tribes. And life's success often depends more on social cooperation and emotional skills. Evolutionary psychologists note that, as our environment changes, so do mating preferences. It actually makes sense that women now prioritize a man who can navigate modern life's stresses with composure and communicate well, over a man who's just physically imposing. In a safe, resource-abundant context, emotional safety and mental health outweigh physical dominance. A partner with high emotional intelligence is better equipped to support parenting, share in mutual goals, and adapt to challenges, all crucial for a long, happy life together. Women intuitively or consciously recognize this shift. 4. Breaking toxic stereotypes. Finally, women appreciate emotional intelligence in men because it represents a break from the old, toxic masculinity norms. Toxic masculinity refers to the pressure on men to behave in overly dominant, unfeeling ways that actually harm everyone involved. Women who have experienced or witnessed those old patterns, maybe having had fathers or exes who were cold or controlling, cherish finding a man who can be strong and gentle. It's like a breath of fresh air. One study from the University of Michigan found no inherent gender difference in emotional experience. Men have feelings just as deeply as women do, but society teaches men to suppress them. Men who break that mold, who are confident enough to be caring, earn respect. Women often say that an emotionally open man makes them feel validated rather than crazy for having feelings. It creates a sense of teamwork. It's not you versus me. It's us versus the problem, because he's willing to talk and work through issues constructively. As a result, the relationship feels like a true partnership, not a power struggle. In summary, emotional intelligence matters to women today because it aligns with their evolved expectations of a relationship built on mutual respect, understanding, and growth. An emotionally intelligent man signals, "I'm not stuck in the past. I can grow, adapt, and be the partner you need." And honestly, developing these skills doesn't just benefit women, it benefits you as well. Men who grow in emotional intelligence often report richer friendships, better work relationships, and improved mental health. It's a win-win all around. Now, having underscored why this matters so much, let's get practical. How can you, as a man possibly raised on the brute force mentality, start to develop and demonstrate emotional intelligence in your daily life and relationships? Developing emotional intelligence. Actionable steps for men. Emotional intelligence is a skill set, and like any skill, it takes practice. The good news is, you can start small. Here are some actionable steps, with examples, to help you build emotional intelligence and make it a visible part of how you love and live. Practice active listening. The next time your partner, or anyone really, is telling you about something important to them, truly listen. This means no interrupting, no jumping in with solutions, and no defensive comebacks. Focus on understanding what they feel. You can reflect back what you hear. "So you felt hurt when I joked about canceling our plans, is that right?" This kind of response shows you care about her feelings. Active listening is powerful because it makes the other person feel valued and understood. As one example, if she's venting about a bad day, resist the urge to immediately solve it. Instead, nod, make eye contact, and say something like, "I'm sorry, that sounds really tough." It might feel too simple, but trust me, it's effective. Remember John and Mike from earlier? Be like Mike in that scenario. Listen first, talk second. Use I statements to express yourself. A classic tip from couples therapy: frame your feelings with I instead of blaming with you. For instance, say, "I feel worried when you go quiet because I care about what's on your mind," rather than, "You never tell me what you're thinking." The first invites conversation. The second invites defensiveness. Women respond much better when you share your feelings calmly. It shows maturity and reduces the sense that they're being attacked. A partner is more likely to empathize with, "I felt hurt by what happened," than, "You hurt me with what you did." Taking ownership of your emotions is part of emotional intelligence, and it fosters trust because it shows you're not just flipping the blame on her. Learn to self-soothe before reacting. If you're a guy with a quick temper, or you tend to get overwhelmed and shut down, this step is key. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean never getting upset. It means handling that emotion wisely. Next time you feel anger surging in an argument, pause. It's okay to take a time out. Say, "I need a minute to collect my thoughts." Then breathe deeply, splash water on your face. Whatever helps you cool down. This prevents you from saying or doing things in the heat of anger that you'll regret. Coming back to the discussion with a clearer head will lead to a much healthier outcome. In fact, an emotionally intelligent person often takes a moment to cool down before discussing a heated issue, to avoid rash and hurtful statements. That's a skill you can practice even outside of arguments. For example, if you get a frustrating email, wait a bit before responding. Build that muscle of thoughtful responding instead of knee-jerk reacting. Cultivate empathy. Put yourself in her shoes. Empathy is at the heart of emotional intelligence. This means actively trying to understand how she feels and why. Even if you don't initially get why something bothers her, make the mental effort to see it from her perspective. Ask yourself, how would I feel if I were in her position? And if you're not sure, you can ask her to help you understand. "I want to understand why that upset you. Can you tell me more about what it meant to you?" This question alone can diffuse a lot of tension because it shows you care about her experience. Empathy also means validating her emotions. You might say, "I see why you're angry. That situation would have upset me too." Or even, "I don't fully understand it yet, but I hear that you're really hurt, and that matters to me." Validating doesn't mean you necessarily agree. It just means you acknowledge her reality. When a woman feels empathized with, her guard comes down and real bonding happens. Be vulnerable and authentic. I won't lie. This one can be challenging if you're not used to it, but it's incredibly impactful. Being vulnerable means sharing your genuine self, your worries, your affection, your dreams, maybe even your fears, with your partner. You don't have to spill your guts 24/7 or turn into a poet overnight. Start small, express appreciation. "I really love that you're in my life." Admit a weakness. "I've been stressed about work. Sometimes I lie and say I'm fine because I don't want to seem weak. I'm trying to be more honest about it." Or share a personal story from your past that shaped you. These moments of vulnerability are relationship glue. Far from pushing women away, a lot of women say it's during those honest moments they feel closest to their man. It signals trust. You trust her with your true feelings. And that in turn makes her trust you more. It's powerful. Remember, an emotionally available man, one who can share and respond to feelings, is how one article defined the modern ideal partner: show kindness and appreciation. Kindness might sound too basic, but in day-to-day relationships, it's often the small acts of kindness that women cherish. Emotional intelligence in action can be as simple as noticing and acknowledging your partner's emotional needs. Did she have a hard day? Offer a back rub or make her a cup of tea. Does she look nice today? Tell her. When you have a disagreement, strive to be gentle in your tone even when you're firm about a point. There's a saying, "People may forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." Making your partner feel loved, safe, and respected is a cumulative result of consistent kind interactions. Interestingly, that big study of 17,000 women I mentioned concluded with a final takeaway that emotional openness, maturity, and compassion, kindness, are essential. The men who thrive in relationships lead with those qualities. In short, be kind. It's hugely attractive, and it costs nothing. These steps are easier listed than done, I know. Don't be discouraged if it feels awkward or if you stumble. Emotional habits, especially for those of us not raised to practice them, take time to build. The key is consistency and genuine effort. You might even let your partner know you're working on this. A good woman will appreciate the effort and support you. Self-reflection. Prompts for personal growth. To truly grow, it helps to turn inward and honestly reflect on your own attitudes and behaviors. I often give my clients homework in the form of journaling or thinking about certain questions. Here are some reflection prompts for you, the listener, to consider. Take your time with them. You might even pause the video and think or write down some thoughts. How did your upbringing shape your view of emotions? For example, what did you learn from your parents or culture about how a man should behave? If you had a father who never said, "I love you," or a mother who told you big boys don't cry, recognize that these early messages might still be influencing you. Ask yourself, are those messages helping or hurting my relationships now? Often, just identifying these inherited beliefs is the first step to changing them. Recall a recent conflict or tense moment with a woman in your life. Partner, crush, family member. How did you respond? Did you react with anger, denial, or by shutting down? Or did you respond with patience and openness? Be honest. If it wasn't ideal, don't beat yourself up. Just imagine how you might handle it differently with more emotional intelligence. What could you have said or done to understand her perspective better? Visualize a do-over where the goal isn't to win the argument, but to connect. This mental rehearsal can actually prepare you for the next time a conflict arises. Ask yourself what you're afraid of when it comes to showing emotion. A lot of men fear that if they open up, they'll be seen as weak, rejected, or even ridiculed. Is that fear realistic with someone who loves you? Most of the time, the answer is no. A loving partner won't see you as weak for being human. In fact, she'll likely appreciate it. Challenge the fear by testing it in small ways. Share a mild worry or admit you're feeling down one evening and see what actually happens. Did the world end? Or did she perhaps come closer to you? Put a hand on your shoulder and say, "Thanks for telling me." Facing these fears bit by bit expands your comfort zone. Consider the role of power in your relationships. Do you feel like you always need to be in control? If so, why? Is it about trust, insecurity, or something else? Sometimes the need to control is actually masking personal insecurity or fear of being vulnerable. Reflect on where that need comes from. Real strength might mean relinquishing a bit of control and trusting your partner as an equal. Remember, a healthy relationship is not a power struggle, it's a partnership. As research highlights, women seek partnership, not dominance. Think about ways you can invite more equality and collaboration into your interactions, and where you can let go of the upper hand mentality. Identify an emotionally intelligent role model or influence. Is there someone you admire who seems to handle emotions well? What do they do that exemplifies emotional intelligence? Perhaps you recall how your friend listens to his wife so patiently, or how a character in a movie wasn't afraid to cry and still was portrayed as strong. Reflect on what you can learn from them. Sometimes having a model, even if they don't know you're using them as one, can inspire concrete changes in how you act. Take some time with these questions. They're meant to spark insight. The more you understand yourself, your triggers, your fears, your learned habits, the more power you have to change. Emotional intelligence, at its core, begins with self-awareness. As one wise saying goes, knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. By understanding your own emotional landscape, you become better at navigating others. Conclusion: encouraging your emotional growth. We've covered a lot, so let's zoom out and recap the heart of the matter. Brute force versus emotional intelligence isn't just a catchy title. It's a genuine crossroads many men find themselves at. On one path, brute force, in the form of dominance, emotional disconnection, or controlling behavior, promises a sense of power, but often leads to hollow victories and broken trust. On the other path, emotional intelligence might feel unfamiliar or uncomfortable at first, but it leads to deeper connection, respect, and real strength in your relationships. The research is clear that women today overwhelmingly value the latter. They want a man who is strong enough to be gentle, confident enough to be caring, and secure enough to be openly human. If there's one takeaway message you remember, let it be this: emotional intelligence is not a soft skill. It's a superpower in love and life. It's the new alpha trait. Being empathetic, communicating openly, and managing emotions effectively will never make you less of a man. It makes you more of a quality man. In the words of one article's conclusion, the ideal partner is no longer the stoic, silent protector of the past, but the emotionally available, psychologically mature man. Modern women are clear about this, and frankly, it's improving relationships for everyone. When you lead with emotional intelligence, you're not forfeiting your masculinity. You're elevating it to meet the needs of the time. I want to acknowledge that personal growth is tough. If you've realized you have some changes to make, you might feel a mix of hope and anxiety. That's normal. Start with one step at a time. Maybe this week you simply pay attention to listening more than you speak. Maybe you muster courage to tell a friend you're struggling instead of hiding it. Celebrate those little wins. Over time, they snowball into a new you, and if you slip up, perhaps you lose your temper once. Don't despair. Catch it. Apologize if needed, and keep practicing. Emotional intelligence is a journey, not a switch you flip overnight. To all the men listening who want to build healthier, happier romantic relationships, I believe in you. I've seen guys in my practice turn their lives around in this area. From nearly divorced to happily reconnected, from lonely to deeply bonded, by embracing these principles. You absolutely can be the kind of man who makes a woman feel truly loved, safe, and understood. And the beauty is, as you do that, you will feel more loved and understood too. That's the magic of an emotionally intelligent relationship. It nurtures both people. So I encourage you. Take the risk of opening up. Trade a bit of that old brute force for some vulnerability and empathy. It might feel like stepping off a ledge at first, but you'll likely find you land in a warm embrace. The women in your life will notice, and they will value you more for it, because you're showing value for them. Remember Mark from the beginning? He'd probably tell you now that he wishes he'd learned these lessons years earlier. But he's grateful he did eventually, because emotional growth saved his marriage and made him a happier man. You don't have to wait for a crisis to start changing. You can begin evolving today, even right now as this talk ends. Thank you for staying with me on this deep dive. It shows you care about improving, and that's truly commendable. Keep reflecting, keep practicing those actionable steps, and be patient with yourself. Emotional intelligence versus brute force isn't just about what women value, it's about what will bring you lasting fulfillment as well. In the end, the strongest men are those who have the courage to love with an open heart. That's what women really value, and it's what will make you proud of the man you are. Good luck on your journey of growth. You've got this.